Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video series. Potentially seeing, we'll see how much I care and if I can be bothered. But basically, it's going to be a series where I go through bases and I dissect them. I kind of talk about the ideal way to take them. Um, you know, Mostly in a live setting, to be quite honest. Um, there are a few disclaimers. Okay, these kind of videos, they're not going to take into account kind of all the factors and all the situations. Um, the main intent really is not to do the thinking for people, but to kind of give an insight into how I think about a base, and and then maybe people will learn from the good stuff that I talk about, and it helps them increase their kind of tactical and strategic repertoire. Um, Look, not every tactic, right, is going to work for every situation, right? Something might work one day, it might not work the next. You got to just keep that in mind and try to remain a bit detached and actually actively think about the situation you're in, not just get complacent, because complacency will just lead to failure. Um, as such, right, the approach or approaches in the video, yeah, they may not work every time, especially as other people, right, they might watch this video, they might figure out a specific way to counter what's in the video, and therefore, you have to be able to think about how you're going to counter, their counters. Um, there might also be a different way of doing things. You may have different resources than the resources which I'm going to talk about in the video. And also, right, the game meta might change. This series was going to be originally for pretty much every base. I've decided to scrap that and kind of just pick, I guess, the most interesting bases and bases which are the most dynamic, but also have a high relevancy for both live and Jaeger gameplay. However, this will be focused on capturing bases, so for 6v6 and 10v10 formats, this video won't be as useful. It may be a little bit relevant for Lanesmash, but really this is actually kind of just for live server. That's what I'm focusing on here. I kind of want to share the knowledge and experiences that I've gained. So why have I chosen the base for today, which is Acan Southern Labs? Well, Acan Southern Labs was a key base in Community Smash last year, Community Smash 10. I wanted to capture the Acan area, um, buy time in the south by slowly losing it. They're gonna, because in the south they'd run in the Southgate checkpoint and Genesis terraforming plant, and really, if we could take Acan and kind of the middle and north, we'd be in a good place. Especially if we ended up taking Hatcher. And although we at one point had 3-1 pop advantage at Hatcher for like 5-10 minutes, we still never captured the base. So yes, the warp gate push didn't work, but also we never took Hatcher, which means people were flying aircraft from Acan and Nasons and Bunker J993, and that was a long flight. Anyway, Acan was very important, and as such, I put some of my best players here. I put the Fiji kind of help people, and Gobs here, along with some other kind of more mid-fit kind of outfits. Um, so a key thing to note, right, is Acan is quite straightforward to defend, right? Oh, so you've got obviously your spawn room here, right, and then from the spawn room you've got two paths, the one on the left and then the one in the middle. And then the same for the teleporter, right? You can kind of go right or you can kind of go middle. Of course, you can go out the vehicle shield here, but normally there's going to be enemy arm on the road. I should also mention I'm not going to be covering key concepts in PlanetSide and in the bases, which I've covered in my Force Commander series trainings, because that's a lot of theory which the kind of average PlanetSide person doesn't need, and really just the Force Commanders who I'm trying to help train up, really they're the only ones who kind of need it. You know, your average kind of squad lead platoon lead, you don't need to know those concepts, so I'm not going to go talk about them. So, Acan South, right? It's actually really easy to take, right? Really easy to take. So, we want to have people at squad waypoint, diamonds waypoint, and ideally a small detachment of people at spades. The reason we only want a small detachment of people at spades, right, is we're going to have sunderers here and here, right? That means we're going to have people coming in really on these pathways to help us, okay? So what that means is we don't really need people at spades if we have that sunderer on the road, because actually, you know, a public platoon or just random people, they're going to spawn in, they're going to run upstairs, and the first thing they're going to do is run in this building, and they're actually going to contest this vehicle terminal for us. So we only want one or two people, you know, ideally just a light assault, actually. This is a very light assault orientated base, and a lot of people tend to forget that. You kind of just see squads just inside the L shapes getting picked apart by LAs. So that kind of covers that northern sector, right? What's important, right, is that when you have, you know, people here, is that we're able to support them from this squad waypoint building, right? We want to be setting up crossfires and crossfires and crossfires. Also, being able to do an aggressive push out here, right? Aggressive push here, crossfire here. You know, we look at the kind of the angles we can take. You know, it's good cover, right? And of course, right, we can have people here, right, providing a bit more depth to the situation. And of course, in the cubby area as well. As well as, of course, up here in the nest, right? Again, we are controlling this area. And even if we're not controlling it, we're denying it. And here in the window, you know, you can put a turret here and, you know, be a bit of a distraction, a bit of a nuisance. And then this side, right, we can have people here, but really they're going to be focused on this area, this pathway, this rock on the right side of the screen, right? They're going to be focusing on that. Whilst this doorway, you know, you can't really defend this doorway very well. Actually, what needs to happen is people from Diamond's waypoint, they need to be aggressive and supporting you, right? Because ideally, right, we seal off the choke points. Ideally, we kind of create this sort of line, right, where we seal off each choke point, because there's only 3 of them, and kind of seal the defenders in. Now, if you don't want to do that with just infantry, right, let's talk about aircraft quickly. Aircraft can be very powerful. You can literally come over this hill, air to ground anyone coming out of either the teleporter room or the spawn room, right? And really, you know, there's many variations of kind of air to ground in that situation, right? But that's the main one, which I'll point out. In terms of this tree, there should be beacons, of course, in there. So your squads have logistics, even if your friendly sunderers here and here, even if they go down. Now, the key way that I took this base in Community Smash, where there was instant death, was this hill here. So this hill here provides great oversight, overwatch, I should say. You can Hesh down below, you can provide AA, and you can provide a Sunderer, you know, which can provide Sniper, which is kind of useless, but most importantly, you know, it's kind of LAs as well, right? You can provide some more LAs, or people with safe fall can jump down. But mainly you want to use it for Hesh, actually. Now, this area here is really good for vehicles. This area next to the Diamonds waypoint, really good for vehicles. You put 2 battle buses with rep, you know, with rep on it, and forward gun has the Cobalt, the rear or whatever, and the rear gun has the Bulldog, you know, or any kind of variation thereof, and you're going to be in a really good position. So you have, you know, 2 Sunderers here. You can also put like GSD Harasser in here, or you can even, if you're able to hack the terminal, you can actually pull a Sunderer and just keep it parked on the pad, and then use these kind of barriers to provide a bit of protection. So, you know, you have plenty of options. Having Sunderers here basically will give you this area, which means you can focus all your people here and all your people here, which is really powerful. In Community Smash, I was really worried about there being drops on this base. So what I did was I actually had 2 squads in squad waypoint and 2 squads in diamonds. And as you can see, the reason I didn't have the squads elsewhere, right, is actually because the hash that was on top of this hill, and I'll talk about where we got it in a second. The hash where we got, got it from, they were in this doorway. So they were shooting in this doorway, this doorway, this doorway, and it protected our balconies, right, on either side. And it even protected this kind of flank between the western building and the south building, which was massive for us. Okay, really, really important. And I spoke to someone on the other team who actually dropped here, and they just died instantly. So, look, in this game nowadays, you can use anvils to get vehicles up here, but that kind of gives away the element of surprise, and everyone knows that you've got a vehicle up here, right? So, oh yeah, I'm still in that. So, where you get the vehicles from is actually here, is actually Nason's. So you can actually get the vehicles for Nason's. There's a MBT terminal at this kind of B point, and you can actually just drive up. You can actually just drive up into that area. Let me show you. So you follow the pathway along, right? And it's an obvious pathway, right? Once you know it exists, it's a very obvious pathway. Sunderers need a bit of a run up to get there, because sometimes you can mess it up. Anyway, it's a very straightforward drive. There's the MBT terminal. So Mag Riders, Vanguards and Prowlers can all be pulled from there. And that's why, and we actually use that terminal a lot in the opener of CS10. Which maybe I'll do a video on that opener at some point, but that would be a very long video. Anyway, to recap Acan Southern Labs, right? We're going to set up our Sunderers again, right? So those are our Sunderers. We're going to have people coming in here, here, and here, right? So what that means is we need to be holding squad waypoint, diamond waypoint, spades waypoint ideally, making sure we have some light assaults. And ideally, right, we want to stop the enemy from breaching these kind of areas, right? They've only got 3 points. Now, what happens, okay, I'll give you a bit of bonus content. What happens if you get dropped on, and what happens if the enemy kind of pull an armor column, right, and your armor gets defeated, right? Because you could hold this with one squad with armor, one squad, and then one squad on kind of security, right, with armor. Let's say worst case scenario, all your armor just dies. You got flanked from up here, so the Sunderers here die, and your spawn Sunderers also die, and they set up counter spawns. In that situation, it all depends on how much time is left. If you've got 1 minute, right, you pull spades back, you put the spades people on point. And then at 30 seconds, you put the squad waypoint people on point, and then at the last second you put everybody on point. Right? Now if it's more than a minute, right, and you're in that situation where you've kind of lost everything, you really just want to try to hold out for as long as you can, to buy time for your armor, either from Acan Bio, or Broken Veil, Woodman, or Nasons to re-pull and help you, or you actually get that 4th squad to drop in on the point, and you kind of, again, you escalate how many people are on point as the timer goes down. It is a really kind of worst case scenario that you lose your two, you get flanked from both the north, east, and west, and then south, because then you're fighting on all sides. There's nothing more you can really do except for hope that you can have more people on the point as time goes on, and kind of micromanage that collapsing of the point. So that's Acan Southern Labs. Again, this isn't a fully comprehensive video on the bass because that would be half an hour. However, it is hopefully a useful demonstration of how I think about a bass and the tactics and kind of the tactical situations that I'm kind of thinking of, and to an extent the strategic stuff, right? Because I'm thinking about how how important this bass is. It connects Broken Vale, Woodman, and Acan. The vehicle terminal at Nason's, that coming into play. The air terminal at Broken Vale and Acan and Bianca J993 are the three closest if we exclude Nathan's. So there's all these little different things that you have to think about. Anyway, like I say, I hope it's useful and I hope it's interesting. If people want more of this kind of content, I realise it's probably a small audience for it. That's okay. I don't mind. Even if only 10 people want it, I shall provide when I'm in the mood. So thank you. If you're in America, happy Thanksgiving. If you're not in America, might as well go eat some turkey anyway, right? Turkey's fucking lovely. Thank you and goodbye.